you. This is Vidhi Berry, your health transformation coach, and we are on day 2 of re-engineering your nutrition. Please like and follow this beautiful initiative FOMO No More for spreading more positive information at a time like this across the world. So, today we're going to talk about your taste buds and your need for sugar. Just before that, to do a quick recap, we finished off on fats yesterday. How to have fats, how to have a well-balanced diet with fats included in it, and demystifying everything we thought about fats. Now today, we're going to do a little more interesting stuff, and I urge all of you to actually quickly ask someone and fetch a few things from your kitchen, any fruits that are available, any packaged foods that are available, whatever you can get your hands on. Just quickly do a run or ask someone to grab a few things and get it, and do an experiment today with me while I'm talking to you, because today you're going to be discovering a whole lot of stuff that you didn't know. You're also going to be shedding off a lot of perceptions that you had about food. Most importantly, you will mindfully and physically in your mouth become aware that there is a lot going on that you didn't know, and you were absolutely not aware of it while you were eating. Some of the keys and clues I will give you, and some of the keys and clues you will share with me later as we go along in this journey. So what I want to talk about today is your taste buds inside your mouth, and from an Ayurvedic perspective, there are 6. Now, what are those 6 taste buds in your mouth? I think you're already thinking of a few, but I'm just going to list them out for you. Number 1, the sweet taste bud. Then, obviously, the salty ones. We have sour, we have pungent. What else? We have astringent and bitter. Now, I'm sure there are food groups coming into your mind as I'm mentioning all of these taste buds. But not one single food group fits into only one taste bud. You actually have a food group going into many taste buds together, and we don't necessarily classify them as only one. But the point at which it begins may be the point at which it is registered in the tongue, and then it goes on, so on and so forth. Why is this important? Why am I talking about this? Why is it even relevant? Because not only are there theories about that, but there are actually scientific realities that happen from your digestive salivary juices that are secreted when you eat a certain food. It gives information to different organs in your body, and it gives information to your brain, and your emotional triggers are there. Now, the emotional triggers are not as pure in scientific terms. They have to do with your perception of what you're eating, they have to do with your memory and childhood experiences of what you're eating, and they have to do with the mood in which you are. So it's very interesting how food works on our mind and our body. But just from a purely scientific perspective, I'm going to show you a little diagram my kids colored just to show you what happens on our tongue. So I don't know if you can see this clearly, but I'm going to point this out to you. This is just a diagram of a tongue, and we have right at the bottom here the sweet taste bud, and right above that is pungent. The sides are sour. Then we have salty somewhere towards the sides on the back. We have bitter here and astringent at the back. The entire back is astringent. So this is something you can find very easily online as well. Why did I show this to you? Because I'm going to now quiz you on some of the regular foods that we eat and ask you where you feel them, and whatever you have thought of, whatever you've got your hands on right now, please try those out in your mouth. There will be slight differences based on how you experience it, because none of us are children right now. So the ways our tongue has adapted, the way we perceive food has changed over time. So my first quiz question for you today, if you're ready, is this is a green banana. If it was a little bit more raw, I would have proved my point better, but let's assume this is a raw green banana. Where do you think this is going to be on your taste buds? Not one place only, but the majority of this, where do you think it's going to be, and what taste bud will this classify as? And you can send me your answers while we're speaking, but I'm going to answer this question with another fruit. This, if you recognize it, we just sort of are going out of season with this. This is the Indian gooseberry or amla. Clearly, these are two very different fruits, and clearly in your perception centers, they are sending out very different signals in your brain and your mouth right now without putting them inside your mouth. Having said that, they would classify almost in the same taste bud centers in your mouth. Are you really shocked and surprised by this? Because this is in your head sour and khatta and tangy and all of those things, and this in your head is a little sweet. So what's going on here? They are both quite dry and rough in texture. Yes, one has a more sour tangy taste, one has a slightly sweeter taste. But the first fact is that they are astringent. So as you experience them in your mouth, you will feel the dryness at the back if you allow your entire mouth to experience both of these. I'm pretty sure most of us are not daring enough to take this and try it out. This may be so. So try out this one and you'll see what I'm talking about. Raw green banana and amla. Now, why is this significant? It is significant because the minute you discover what is fulfilling your different taste buds, you will also realize that just like every part of our organs need to be functioning fine, all of our taste buds need to be fulfilled, and we need to secrete saliva everywhere. Everything needs to be activated. Not purely because the salivary juices have to be equal, also because the emotional centers are connected to each of these taste buds and your organs are connected. So to just start with a simple one, from this beautifully colored diagram by my children, the sweet and the pungent, this is the area, this middle area is where your heart is connected. Does that give you a clue? The clue is that if that is where your heart is connected, that is exactly why you want to eat sweet and slightly pungent and chatpata food. Yeah, little more fun food. And I want to ask all of you out there, I think 90% of you like the fruit that's coming right now in this season. Any guesses what they are? What is that fruit which in your head is the sweetest fruit? Yes, you guessed it right. It's a mango. Now, this is the Alfonso mango. I don't think we are getting a whole lot in Kolkata because they haven't come down from Mumbai. But if you have this, the first thing when I say mango, what is the taste bud that hits in your mind? Sweet, right? I want all of you, if you have access to mango, please try this out and tell me, because I actually did this experiment just before I started talking to you with all my family members, and we had a unanimous result. Guess where we experienced it? Because I showed you where the sweet taste bud was. It was at the tip of your tongue, right in front. Do you think I experienced the mango there? Any guesses? I experienced it right where I said the heart center is. Just a little above the sweet, clashing into the sweet, going into the pungent. And that was really interesting even for me today. It was really interesting because it is a very fulfilling fruit for people who enjoy it. And there's a majority of people who really enjoy their mangoes. And it actually has a good blend of fulfilling the senses in a way that makes you feel you had a hearty meal. It's filling and it's sugary, yes, but it's not sweet on your tongue. So that was a very interesting observation, because we have always perceived mango as a purely sweet fruit, and it is not on your taste buds a purely sweet food. So coming to what is purely sweet then, because you want to talk about sugar as well, and sugar is something that's a favorite. And if the sweet center is not activated, then what? So what is a purely sweet food that you would experience on the tip of your tongue? A little clue, we talked about these yesterday. Alright, it's your fats, and the number one is ghee. That's my ghee pot, it's ghee. The minute ghee hits your mouth, if it's pure ghee, doesn't matter what kind of cow it came from, it will hit the front of your tongue. And it is the number one sweet food, which is why traditionally we always added the ghee on top. It is a sweet food. It fulfills the sweet taste buds. Number two food, what do you think it can be? Just simple cooked rice. Small, big, any size, small, thick rice, all kinds of rice. Doesn't mean you have a whole lot, but If you've seen many traditions, even in villages today, when they start their food, they start it with a little bit of rice and ghee on top, or homemade butter. And the secret runs in our tradition long is that we need to start our food with sweet. So right from Andhra, where we have the rice with the ghee on top, to Rajasthani meals right in the morning where you have homemade makhan, homemade butter with a little bit of gur, and that's how you start your meals, and you have your bajra rotis. You'll see it in villages, you'll see it in all traditional cultures, that they start with sweet, because sweet is right at the front of your tongue, and the minute you activate that center, your feeling of fullness, your feeling of satiation becomes higher. And someone beautifully commented right now that that's why children love rice. Yes, because sugars are carbohydrates, they gave us pure energy. So don't misunderstand sugar, don't debunk it, but understand that there are different categories and different age groups consume and digest them differently. So that little bit of rice with ghee isn't going to hurt anyone. Then coming to things like coconut. Coconut again is a sweet food, very simply found in nature, and you can easily consume it. Now coming to a slightly more complex. What about, I don't know if you can see this, but this is our regular atta, just normal refined whole wheat atta. Yeah, what do you think about this? Is there sugar hiding in this? Why do I even show this for sugar? What taste bud does it fulfill? So it actually makes you feel that there's salt. It makes you feel that there is carbohydrate energy. It gives you a feeling of fullness, because there are brain centers that associate with your childhood, saying that, yeah, you know, you ate this, it gave you energy, mom told you to eat this, so it is giving you the right amount of energy. Yes, and there's a huge amount of sugar release. So now I want to quickly transition to what we call glycemic index, because from your taste buds we came to talking about the sugar in front, and all of us tend to like sugar in some form or the other. And when we like sugar, we need to understand that there are consequences to eating different kinds of sugar, so we can't eat them all mindlessly. So if we are having a roti, a regular whole wheat roti, and we're having a rice, and we're having a mango, and we are having coconut or ghee, what are the glycemic index for all of these? What do I mean by glycemic index? It's basically how the blood sugar levels spike up 2 hours after a meal, simply put. Yeah, of course these have more consequences for anyone with a diabetes or any other kind of cholesterol or lifestyle diseases, but for someone who's not showing up with any kind of lifestyle diseases, what do you think the sugar implies? The glycemic index, or the blood sugar rising, is something that is not necessarily a healthy sign for anyone. But if we keep it in control with exercise and movement, it's absolutely manageable, especially in active children. However, it's good to be aware, because as you grow, age, and stop exercising, what's going to happen is that blood sugar is going to spike, and there's going to be nothing to bring it down. Yeah. So what is the glycemic index highest in amongst the food I've just spoken about? Any guesses there? So we spoke about regular refined sugar, we spoke about mangoes, I showed you some rice, I showed you some ghee, atta, then there were other fruits we mentioned, and maybe I'm going to show you a little bit of what we use in the kitchen. Tomato puree, we have the baked beans can, which a lot of you might be using. What about this one, favorite breakfast cereal, Chocos for children? So any ideas on where the glycemic index is highest? And then I'm going to actually come to the hidden sugars in these foods. Any guesses? So the glycemic index is highest in maida, which is refined flour, and whole wheat, which is regular chapati atta, the roti atta that we eat. It's almost 75 plus. If glucose is given an arbitrary number of 100, 75 is where your regular atta is. The atta that we eat every day, not the refined maida or flour, the whole grain, whole wheat atta. And guess what? The sugar, the white sugar that you put in your tea is 10 points lower than the atta. So me putting that atta in my mouth, or the roti in my mouth, versus putting that spoon of sugar, surprise, surprise, the sugar has a lower glycemic index. Yeah, of course, sugar has its other issues attached to it, which we're going to get to in a minute. But be clear that blood sugar spikes with all of these foods in combination. And if you are not a child who is going to jump up and down on a chair and burn that off within the next 15 minutes, you have to be very, very watchful of how you're eating. So coming back to the taste buds, if I'm only eating food that is releasing blood sugar, then I'm not satiating myself. I need to eat a meal that is balancing all my taste buds. So just like we visually very often talk about a colorful plate, a rainbow diet, in the same manner, let's talk about actually fulfilling all 6 taste buds. So like I showed you the amla, there is lemon, there are green chilies, there are different kinds of bitter vegetables like gourds, there are pungent vegetables, there are cruciferous vegetables, then there are sweeter vegetables which have a little bit of pungent, little bit of sour like pumpkin. If I can mix at least 4 or 5 of these in a meal, have a dal that mixes the whole bitter astringent group, have maybe one kind of roti and a rice and add some ghee on top, that's when I'm really able to balance and fulfill all my taste buds, and I will most likely be touching in and fulfilling the needs of all my organs, fulfilling my own emotional centers and triggers as well. But if I eat just 2 items, let's say I just have fried aloo tikkis and a piece of toast, what do you think happens? Now this is very interesting because it's comfort food for a lot of people. They're like, we're fulfilling our emotional centers and our senses. Now obviously when you had that fried any kind of potato item, there was a lot of oil that went in. Obviously you had to add some salt there, and the complex carbohydrate in the potato itself is quite sweet, yeah, high on the glycemic index. And then I had a refined flour toast with some more butter, and there's hidden sugar and salt in there too. Now what happens? There's a kind of hunger that we all have that we're not very aware of, and it's called thirst. Thirst is purely your need for water, but it's a kind of hunger. And if you had that toast and you had that aloo tikki, the potato fries or tikkis, you're actually going to feel thirsty, but instead of reaching out for water, you might reach out for a soda or a soft drink, or you might eat some more. So sugar leads to a craving for more sugar. You usually, unless you're very, very controlled about how you eat your comfort food, are going to reach out for a sweet soda which is laden with another 17 spoons of refined sugar, or you're going to eat some more of the same, just like when you open a bag of potato chips. So when I open this, and this is just about 30 grams, so it's really, really tiny. Did you know, if you read the facts at the back, that this also just in such a small bowl contains more than half a spoon of sugar you're eating there? So you thought you're having a little light snack in the evening, and you absolutely can't stop at this. Someone just asked about the glycemic index of Maggi. What do you think it is? Really, really high. And I love how the companies package it and say that it's high in iron, rich in calcium. So you can absolutely add on all of these things like we have in all these vitamins and supplements these days, but you cannot take away what refined flour does to you. So you can add what you want on top, but you can't take the essence out, and the essence is that it's destroying your gut, it's lowering your immunity, and it's adding on that extra sugar which your body can't digest. So what is the right amount of sugar? Basically, your body has a reserve of 5 grams of glucose or sugar every hour, yeah? And a child who has something like 30 grams of rice, one small katori, one small bowl of rice, is easily bouncing up and down. Even while studying, you see they don't sit still, so they're going up and down, up and down, up and down, and they are digesting that 30 grams of sugar within the next couple of hours. What do you think is happening to us adults? At best, most of us do not work out for more than 1 to 2 hours a day, and that also is only one chunk. So morning workout or evening workout or afternoon workout. Maybe some people do too, but we are definitely not on the move continuously. We do not have the high metabolic rate of a child. So what's going to happen to us? That sugar from just that one small cup of rice is going to stay for a good 5 to 6 hours. So when we have digestion times given to us for food, please remember that these are applicable to very, very active adults. And maybe in some European cultures we find that, but right now even they are bereft of the activity. So most of us are sitting with all of these carbohydrates as sugars in our body, and it's releasing and it's not burning up and it's out there in our bloodstream. So what do we have to come back to? Thinking about having more whole grains like natural millets, which are slightly low on the glycemic index and release sugar very, very slowly, not that spike of 30 to 50 grams in an hour where you just needed the 5 grams. So just be aware of that. And yes, things like Maggi, biscuit, the more refined it is, there are larger risks. So not only is the glycemic index really, really high, the sugar content is excessively high. So just a quick example, I showed you the Chocos. Now Chocos is obviously, I think all of you know, is the worst kind. But let's go to a regular Kellogg's cornflakes or any kind of cereal out there in the market and compare it to a Chocos. How much do you think this little bowl right here has? How much sugar? And this is there for you to see. This is not a sting operation I did. It's there for you to see on the packet. This little amount, it's not even a full bowl. It's just maybe like 60 grams maybe. This has about 3 teaspoons of sugar. So if I'm giving my child this bowl, I am actually okay with giving her 3 teaspoons of sugar in a meal. Be aware when you're having the cornflakes, that's what you're doing. What about the regular thing that we all add to our food for taste? Tomato ketchup. What do you think about this? So tomato ketchup is another one where the hidden sugars are there. It's all there for you to see. Please read the back. And this is something I want you all to become aware of. Processed packaged food has always listed at the back near the carbohydrates how much sugar it has. Read the fine print in the no added sugar, okay? The juice packets will say, you read the back, you'll see fine print sugars, it's higher than the one which actually claims that it has added sugar. If you have any kind of Milo or any of those Bonvita or Horlicks drinks, you'll see lots and lots of sugar. So in a pack this big, 40% is sugar. So you're actually feeding chocolate and sugar. So most of the high protein chocolate drinks that our kiddos and our adults are having for better performance, we're actually clogging ourselves and our blood with sugar. So remember that all your refined food is full of sugar. Now what's the problem with all of this refined sugar? I talked about glycemic index, but the number one thing it does is it actually lowers your immunity instantly by 50%. So you see it very obviously in kids that they have a spike. You always call it a sugar spike. It's actually because it hit those centers in the tongue. They had that emotional response. They started jumping up and down, and then they had a quick slump after that. And you will also notice in culture, because children are so exposed to refined food, any child above the age of 1 till the age of 5 is commonly now facing the following problems, which is digestive issues, major amounts of respiratory issues, as well as gut inflammation and constipation issues. And sugar is one of the number one item that is lowering immunity in children and adults, and it starts at the young age of 1, which is when children start exploring a whole lot of food and parents think it's okay to give them everything. So this whole concept of everything is where the problem starts with. So I've talked a lot about problems today. We've talked about refined foods. There's a lot about biscuits and breads, and that I talk about it as processed or refined food. Yes, it is. Please be aware that if you want to eat something sweet, you need to make a conscious choice there. So what is the conscious choice I would like you to make? Instead of picking up that biscuit or having a piece of toast, please get some dark chocolate, invest in a little bit of coconut, have some gur, maybe a few raisins, dates, make a protein bar or a homemade laddu, or what we call chikkis. Use a nut mix, add a little licorice. So this is what licorice powder looks like. This again is like ghee. It hits the front of your tongue. It's sweet. So be aware that there's a lot out there. Please have that, because you at least know that you're fulfilling your sweet senses. You're making an effort for yourself, fulfilling all those needs within your heart centers, your brain centers, and you're not pretending that you're eating something average or neutral. So average or neutral, when we say white bread, brown bread, biscuits, that's not average or neutral. It's completely negative nutrition. And unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, some of us have grown up eating it every single day, thinking it's okay. Thinking it's okay. I don't even want to get to the second level of the fact that it's completely stale food. So please be aware that this is something that you need to become completely mindful of. I know today when I'm making you aware, you're also becoming a little more confused because of this, because you're going to experience a whole lot of stuff in your mouth. You're also going to start questioning that if I don't eat my regular breads or biscuits, what should I do? We are going to start answering all of this as we go along. And what happened to everything I thought was average and neutral? You know, what about those little Maggi with the iron and calcium fortified? What about the cereals that claim to be good fortified breakfast cereals? Every time someone claims that something is fortified in the market and you have a big film star on TV, you need to read behind, because they can't hide the sugar that's hidden in there. So just be aware of that. Yeah. Now, I want to talk to you about the solutions for our everyday life. So if I need to fulfill at least half of those taste buds first thing in the morning after I had my spoon of fat, what is the ideal food to eat? The ideal foods to eat is anywhere between 1 full to 3 full fruits in the morning. Now, why do I say 1 full to 3 full? Simply because whether it's 3 or 1 would depend again on your lifestyle age and if you have any lifestyle diseases. So, assuming that you're a child who is maybe 7 to 8 years old, has no history of hormonal or lifestyle diseases, I would say have 2 to 3 fruits. If you are a healthy 25-30-year-old person, definitely yes. But if you are a very sedentary person with borderline pre-diabetes, definitely not more than 2 basic fruits, and they wouldn't be a banana and a mango together. Yeah. So we would keep it much simpler. Maybe a watermelon, a big bowl of watermelon would do. So when I'm having that fruit in the morning, not only is it fulfilling the sweet, pungent, little bit of sour taste buds, and like I showed you with the raw banana, astringent. So a good platter of 3 fruits would actually fulfill at least 5 of your taste buds. 5 of your taste buds. And that's a great start to the day, because you said hello to all your organs, you've got your salivary glands to start secreting correctly, and your mind centers and your emotion centers pep up. Versus when you have that slice of bread in the morning with a cup of tea. I know that's a staple for 50% of you out there, and you might partially hate me for saying this, but it gives you that little spike and then you slump again and you need to eat more and more and more. And while it's lowering your immunity, it's making you addicted every single day, and if you don't have it now, you're going to get a headache. And you have actually never experienced that lightness and energy that that platter of fruits could have given you if you had had it empty stomach. So that's the first transition I challenge you to go forward with. And for that sweetness in your life, for that dessert in your life, whether it's a midnight snack, whether it's a protein bar in the evening, or whether it's something you carry with you as a side instead of your homemade mattis, biscuits, any of the packaged party snacks, make a little bit of a protein bar with perhaps a dark chocolate or a natural sugar. Use a little bit of grated coconut, use soaked raisin puree for sweeteners, and you can mix a little bit of nuts, almonds, cashews, whatever you like. Try at least 3 or 4 different recipes with this and make your sweets. In India, we've had a rich resource of things like sesame laddus, things with gur, chikkis with nuts. So all of these recipes are out there for you to try with a whole lot of natural ingredients. So please have your sweet, have a small piece, have it as a snack at any time of your day, but compensate it and have it instead of the other stuff that you were having thinking it's neutral. That is your reward. Reward yourself every day in the morning with a platter of 2 to 3 full fruits, and then this nice little sweet that you've made for yourself, or sauced, because they're actually easily available out there, and most of the organic ones do not have hidden sugars. So they are perfect alternatives for you. They will not lower your immunity, they will not create any addictions, and they will not spike up your glycemic index. So none of those lifestyle diseases that you were at risk for or are within are going to be affected negatively. So I'm giving you 2-3 very simple solutions going forward to understand that you can fulfill your taste bud needs, your sugar needs in a more natural way, rather than toxically harming yourself through the hidden sugars in your regular foods and through the refined sugars that you are knowingly eating, thinking that it's okay to have a little, because in the current scenario that we are living in, we can't afford to compromise on any of the immunity that we have, and we're losing it every single day to these toxic poisons. Now I'm going to take up a few questions that are coming up. What about brown sugar in coffee? What about honey? So brown sugar can be tricky because some of it is actually just white refined sugar that's been colored. If you can find a Demerara sugar or a natural Bhura shakkar, much more preferable, which is made from jaggery or a pure sugarcane. The other thing is you can have a little bit in your black coffee. That's absolutely fine. Someone asked about what to do about a midnight snack, because some of us binge on chocolates at night. Not a great idea to have a midnight snack, but if you absolutely have to have it, then try to make a protein bar or a nut bar or a nut sweet laddu and have that in the night. Now, a lot of people have the practice of having a morning warm water and lemon. I would say a warm water and lemon is perfect as it is. We do not need to add that little bit of honey in it. So that little bit of honey in it, again, I don't want to get into too much of the Ayurvedic prakritis, but definitely there are prakritis, which means the elemental states, where a little bit of honey is recommended, but not for most. So lemon in hot water is perfect. Beyond that, we really don't need to take the honey as a part of it. But honey, a little bit, if you again don't have a pre-diabetes or a diabetes condition, you can add as a sweetener to your food. Make sure you don't cook the honey or heat the honey. Again, just like ghee, it needs to be added on top. So that's the ideal way of having it. Now, I'm excited that we spoke about sugar today. I think it's left a lot of questions in your mind. It might have caused confusions and some disappointments, that I'm saying that you shouldn't be eating a whole lot of what you should be eating, that you are eating, and you should be eating the platter of fruits and the nuts and the laddus. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. We do have an ideal diet that we can follow if we are able to let go of these toxins. So going forward, I invite you as a challenge from today to stop having any one kind of refined sugar that you're having just for 7 days. Just take a break for 7 days from any form of refined sugar that you consume, and see, just as a sugar holiday, what happens after 7 days. I'm going to do it with you. So I'm going to stop putting that sugar in my tea and maybe add a little gur, because gur is a great substitute. But then again, gur is not as sweet as the white refined sugar, so don't put 2-3 spoons. Just a little bit is great. So I recommend that you switch to other alternatives or sweeteners. Even mulethi or licorice is a good one. So a tiny pinch of that is a great sweetener even in your tea. Start with this challenge with me. Take this sugar holiday. Let's see how we all feel. And we're going to be back tomorrow with superfoods. So today I did demystify sugar, but I also disappointed a lot of people who are really fond of sugar. We also became aware of our taste buds, the 6 taste buds in our mouths that we want to fulfill every single day to be more fulfilled and energetic as humans. Every single meal needs to be planned thinking of all 6 of these. So tomorrow we are going to move on to superfoods that are going to fulfill all of these 6 taste buds and take you further than your craving for sugar. I hope you enjoyed the talk today, and don't forget to like FOMO NOMO and follow us on FOMO NOMO for more events like this, more posts that are positive. See you guys tomorrow to talk about superfoods. Bye. Have a good night.